Good morning, Ugly Mug Marketing followers. It's another edition of Coffee Chats, where we drink coffee and chat about marketing. My name is Hannah Balliet, and I am the Director of Communication and Teaching here at Ugly Mug. And today, we have a very special guest. Today, I am joined by Ugly Mug Marketing founder and author of Full Circle Marketing, Wayne Mullins. If I had like a little sound that had like a round of applause, I would play that right now, but instead I'll just do a little clap. Thanks so much for joining us this morning, Wayne.
Thank you, Hannah. Thanks for the making me feel awkward in that
I
intro.
know. I was like, that was my goal. I was like, make Wayne feel as uncomfortable as possible.
You did a great job, so thank you. We can end this now. You accomplished your mission.
And end of stream.
Yeah, 1 minute in.
No, y'all, today is going to be a great episode, whether you're joining us live on YouTube, on LinkedIn, or Facebook. You're in for a treat. We are really intentional right now during this time at Ugly Mug with all of our clients, but also with people who just tune in and view and admire us from afar. We're really being intentional about helping people prepare for 2024. And we are not trying to wish away this time of the holiday season. And for those that are already getting your Christmas tree up, we're not trying to wish that time away by any means. But what we're trying to do is really help you forecast, look ahead, plan ahead so that you don't get to January and you're like, oh crap, I didn't develop any sort of marketing strategy. I didn't do any sort of planning for my business. We want you to be thinking ahead and preparing. Now is the time to be doing that. Of course, enjoy the holiday season. Enjoy this time that is often busy for many businesses, slow for other industries, but busy for many in the retail and e-commerce space. Enjoy this, but still be planning and looking ahead. But before we dive into all of that and chatting about full circle marketing, first, Wayne, tell us a little bit about you, which is going to be super awkward and fun for you.
No, thank you.
Where you're from, what you like to do, and what made you want to start Ugly Mug Marketing. I know that was 3 questions.
All good. I'll do my best to remember. So I'm from Alexandria, Pineville area, born and raised. Funny thing is, I often mention on podcasts, I was born in Rapides Hospital, which is literally like 3 or 4 blocks that way. So I haven't made it far in life. Still in downtown Alexandria, but I am a husband, father of 4 amazing kids, which I know is what everyone says. No one's going to say they have terrible kids, but I do have great kids. My journey into marketing was not a straight path per se. I do have a degree in marketing or business with specialization in marketing, but my path started in sales. And then from sales that led into kind of doing some marketing consulting work on the side as I was growing another business. And so I think, one of the huge takeaways, I spoke last week at LSUA for a business class. And, one of the questions came up with like, how do I decide what to do with my life in the future? And one of the things that I've learned is that oftentimes when we try to discover our purpose, that we get so overwhelmed by this sense of, I don't know what my purpose for life is. I don't know what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to accomplish. And purpose and usefulness actually come from the same word. So if you had never seen a hammer before and there was a hammer sitting on the table, the only way to discover the usefulness or the purpose of that hammer would be to pick it up and experiment with it. And so I believe the same is true in our lives, that we have to move forward. We have to try things. We have to pursue things in order to discover our purpose. So for me, marketing is something I've always enjoyed, but I really didn't understand kind of that was my purpose or my calling to help other people with marketing until I actually jumped into it and began experimenting.
Yeah. I love that. I feel like we've been having, and by we, I mean me and my husband, Wes, and our friends about like purpose versus job versus career versus like calling versus, and so I really like that idea of, okay, in order to figure out what your purpose is or your calling or what you're supposed to be doing with your life, just jumping in and experimenting with it. And sometimes that can be the scariest jump of all that we make, but I really like that analogy. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to add one quick note. I had a conversation yesterday with a friend, William. William.
Yeah.
And he was talking about a book he just recently read called, I think it was called Good Enough. I may be wrong on the title, but he was
Mhm.
talking about in that book how we often get hung up on like our job isn't fulfilling, or our job isn't our purpose or our calling. And
Yeah.
the whole premise of the book was your job doesn't have to be your calling. Your job can serve you, it can provide for you so that you
Yes.
can pursue your calling. And I thought it was just a really unique perspective, because I think so often if we don't find purpose in our job, that we feel discouraged, or we look around and we see other people and we're like, oh man, they've got this amazing career, amazing job, and they're
Yeah.
fulfilling their purpose. But the reality is that's not the case for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I think for Wesley in particular, like, he was in the army and a lot of his identity was wrapped up in that. And he felt like he had this higher purpose and this higher calling because of that job and everything that surrounds you. It's your entire life. And so then transitioning from being in the army and being responsible for so many people too, to then going into sales, which is a very independent, your every man for themselves kind of world, and being in the tech industry, like such a change and really struggling with like, what is my purpose? What is my identity? So then he was like, okay, well then I'm going to join the reserves, like, so that I still feel that purpose, like while I'm doing this. But I think over time and, a few hops between jobs, like now he's discovered that like, all right, this job may not necessarily be my purpose. I'm good at my job and it financially allows for me to have flexibility in my life to pursue and figure out what my actual purpose or calling might be. But it's okay if my job is just my job.
Yeah. Means
Yeah.
to an end.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So Wayne, what do you like to do for fun?
Yeah, it's a trick question. My life is very busy right now with kids. So
Mhm.
work, and then 4 nights a week we have kids activities. We're also in the process of building a house, so that adds a
Yes.
bit more complexity to things. Um, I actually really love learning. I really love studying and
Mhm.
growing. I love having very challenging conversations, very deep conversations about things and trying to solve problems.
Mhm.
Yesterday, I was with a couple of other gentlemen, and we were kind of doing a review day where we were just reviewing and reflecting on the last month and like what's taking place in our businesses and our lives.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I kind of discovered through that process is I really enjoy taking a bunch of information and attempting to distill it down into teachable or shareable things, which I really think is how the book Full Circle Marketing actually came to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to chat about full circle marketing, but before we jump into that, everyone always asks me, why are you called ugly mug marketing? And so I figure what better way to tell everyone the story behind excuse me, not full circle marketing, but behind ugly mug marketing than to have the owner himself tell us where you came up with the name for ugly mug marketing.
Yep. So the name Ugly Mug Marketing comes from a quote by this gentleman of the name David Ogilvy. So David Ogilvy was the co-founder of an agency that was called Ogilvy, Mather, and Benson, I believe was the original third partner. They were the largest ad agency in the entire world for a long time. They are now in the top 10, still huge offices around the world. But David Ogilvy had a quote inside of his offices. So when he was talking to his team, that was this: I would rather you show me an ad that's ugly and effective over one that's beautiful but isn't. And, you know, not to dive into the whole backstory, but previously I had another company where when I was growing that business, I would hire people to do various marketing related things for me. And they designed, for example, I had somebody build a website and they designed this very beautiful website that did absolutely nothing for my
Yeah.
business. And so then I started learning and studying, and I would go back to this person and say, look, I need you to make this change and this tweak and this adjustment. And so it was really from my experience that I wanted that to be our North Star, I guess, if you would call it. I
Yeah.
don't want us to be so enamored by trying to win awards, which in our industry, it's a very big thing.
Yes.
So often competitors base everything around just trying to win an award or trying to make it look like they're the most creative or the most this or that. And at
Yep.
the end of the day, what our clients come to us for, if they're for profit, is they want more money in the bank account. That's
Yep.
it. And so we just want to stay focused on what matters most, not to us, but to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So there you have it, folks. That's the story behind how Ugly Mug Marketing got its name. But now the reason that you're all here, right, is to chat about Full Circle Marketing, which is a book that Wayne wrote in 2000 and was it 2019?
21.
21? Okay.
Yeah, it
Okay,
came out 21.
2021. Um, and I know that this was something that Wayne spent a lot of time on. And the book is amazing. It's very, like Wayne said, he has a knack for taking a bunch of information and distilling it down into some teachable moments. And so in the book, Wayne tells the story of the marketing rock. And so, Wayne, I want you to tell us a little bit of the story behind the marketing rock and what it did for Ugly Mug Marketing.
Absolutely. So one of the rocks is actually around the wall on the other side. I'm not going to go grab it. But the marketing rock was this rock. You think of it kind of like a rock that you would skip across a lake or a river or something. It's a smooth, round rock. And back in those early days, I had no money to spend, but I needed to do something to create attention, to capture attention amongst business owners. And so I came up with this idea of riding on a rock. That effective marketing doesn't have to be expensive. And then it had our web address on there. And so the whole premise was this. I knew from experience that most business owners, most entrepreneurs were very frustrated with their marketing because they didn't know if it was working or not. So they would write a check, spend a bunch of money with television, radio, print, billboard. It doesn't matter. You name the platform. They'd spend all of this money and then they didn't know if it was working. They didn't know if it was effective.
Yeah.
And so I wrote a bunch of these rocks and I would leave them around places where business owners would be. So I would go to the restaurants where a lot of business owners went for lunch and I would leave them on a few tables. And I would leave them in coffee shops. I would leave them in hotel lobbies. I would leave them around everywhere. And so as a result of leaving those rocks around, what happened was somebody picked up one of the rocks, they kept it. They then signed up for our newsletter, which at the time we had a physical print newsletter we were sending out. They signed up for it. They got the newsletter, and then they took that newsletter and they handed it to someone who had an RFP. The RFP was for $10,000. That was the total project. They handed it to that person. That person then asked us to give a proposal. We gave a proposal. We won that project. And one of the whole premises of the book, Full Circle Marketing, is that the most effective marketing that you will ever do is when you have an evangelist or when you have someone provide word of mouth. And so it was as a result of that one rock that got handed or turned into the newsletter that then got handed to someone else that it created a catalyst, it created an evangelist. And that evangelist in return has sent us way more than $1 million worth of business and spent some of that money themselves with us.
Yeah. Absolutely crazy. One thing that you mentioned is people were investing, these business owners, they were investing money in TV, radio, you name it. They were throwing their money at that. And I think that a lot of times, especially when people come to us, and really just like any conversation I feel like I have with someone who is involved with a business and trying to figure out their marketing plan and figure out what's going to be the most effective, they think that those tactics are the marketing themselves. So they think I'm running television, that's my marketing. And really that's not the definition of marketing. So tell us the definition that we use at Ugly Mug, the definition that you feel is the true definition of marketing, and tell us why you feel like that's the best definition that we should use moving forward when we're viewing a marketing plan or putting together a marketing plan for our company.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. So often people are doing a bunch of things and they're doing all these marketing things. They're spending all of these marketing dollars trying to attract people, trying to get people to pay attention to them. And then they're frustrated because it doesn't work. And the reason it's not working is most often, number one, they're not strategic. Number two, it's because they're playing copycat. In other words, they hear or see a competitor running something or doing something. So they think, oh, I've got to do the same thing. And this is just a slight pet peeve of mine, but one of the most common things that you'll hear is everyone talks about how great they are. In other words, we've been in business for 43 years and we've got friendly staff
Yeah.
and we've got a great selection. And like
Like, so does
any,
everyone else.
exactly, everyone can say that. So you've got to get crystal clear about what makes you different than everyone else. What
Yeah.
makes you completely different than everyone else? That's my side soapbox. I'll step off of that. But the definition we love to use for marketing is this: marketing is your ability to attract and to keep a customer. Attract and to keep. We live in this world today where there's 6.5 billion people with this device, a smartphone. That means there's 6.4 billion people who have the ability within a few seconds to tell the world about our product, about our service, about how rude the person was behind the counter or how great the person was behind the counter.
Mhm.
And yet, as marketers or as entrepreneurs, we don't even think about that, because what we focus on is getting the next customer through the door, right? We focus all of our time, all of our attention, all of our budget on next. Who's the next person out there who's never been through our door, who doesn't know about us? And there's all kinds of different stats you'll read that it costs X dollars more to attract a new customer than it does to keep a customer. We all know across the board that our best customers are the ones who are from referral or word of mouth. And yet we have no strategies around that. So that is a big part or a big premise of the entire book. It's how do we think about our marketing differently? How do we separate ourselves from the competition? And then how do we empower, how do we mobilize evangelists on our behalf?
Yeah. So let's talk about evangelists, like the natural progression. What are those different stages of the natural progression? And then what are some strategies that we can use to get people to become an evangelist for us quicker? But where does that all start for people that aren't familiar?
Sure. I think the simplest way is to think of an old circular clock, like the hour hand, second hand, up on the wall somewhere, maybe in school. And what I love to say is, okay, at the 12 o'clock spot, so at the very top of the clock, you have out there in the world strangers. So strangers are anyone out there who doesn't know about you, your product, your service, but you genuinely believe they would benefit from your product or service. So it's not just everyone who doesn't know about you, but it's those who don't know about you, but would greatly benefit from your product or service. Those are strangers.
Mhm.
Our entire marketing system, the whole goal of our first campaign is to move people from the 12 o'clock spot to the 3 o'clock spot. And to do that, there's two ingredients needed. Number one, we have to get people to know about us. Super obvious. They have to know about you. Number two, they have to like you. If you do those two things, they will become your friends. So at 3 o'clock, we have friends. Now, the next objective for our marketing campaigns is to move people from friends into customers, into clients. That's where they pull out their wallets and hand us the money. And to
Yep.
do that, there's one magic word, and that is trust. They must trust that our product's going to deliver, that we're going to stand behind it if there's an issue. They must trust that they're going to get more value from the product or service than the money they're parting with, right? No one's going to give us money if they think they're going to get less value than the money they exchange.
Mhm.
So the key ingredient there is trust. And when it comes to trust, one important note is no one trust you or I as business owners or as marketers. They don't
Mhm.
trust us, right?
Yeah.
They're skeptical. They know that we have a vested interest. They know that we maybe get a commission or that we're going to benefit, we're going to profit from them handing us money. So who do they trust? Well, they trust other people. So when you
Mhm.
think about your marketing, ask yourself, who are the other people that I can leverage, that I can use to talk about my business, to talk about how great my product or service is? So
Mhm.
we've moved them now from the 12 o'clock strangers, we've converted them into friends by getting them to know about us and to like us. And then if we're good with building trust, we can move them from friends into customers at 6 o'clock. And for most marketers, that's it. We're done. We've attracted the new person. We've got them, they pull out their wallet, they handed us money, and we're back up at the top trying to find more people we can do this again for. Well, I believe that where marketing is going is we have to turn those people, those customers, into evangelists, which would be at the 9 o'clock spot. And there's a few ingredients here, but the number one ingredient to move people from an ordinary customer into an evangelist, someone who's willing to go out and talk about us, is we have to ensure that our product or service exceeds their expectations. If we meet expectations, they're not going to go out and say great things about us. And obviously, if we don't even meet expectations,
Yeah,
then
I
we
was
go
like,
talk
if
about
it's below the bar, then they'll
that's a
say something too.
that's a whole different conversation. And the reality is, people are more likely to complain than they are to
Mhm.
praise. And so it's our job, though, as marketers, to use our skills, our abilities, and to think intentionally around what can I do to serve my customers, my clients in such a way that they can notice a drastic difference between what they expected and what they're actually getting. So that is the quick version of that. And if we have evangelists, what happens is obviously they go tell their friends, which cuts straight across to the 3 o'clock spot on the clock. So it
Yeah.
bypasses that whole top spot, which interestingly enough, that is where most advertising dollars get spent. They get spent at the top of that, trying to convince people to know about us and to like us.
Yeah, when in reality, they should be spending more of their budget on the people that are already customers, that already know them, that already like them, that already trust them, because those people actually hold the power, right? Like that's exactly what you were saying. They have the ability to go and tell their friends and family, to go tell their neighbor, the person across the street. I mean, when we think about it, how often, when we're going to buy something or we're going to try a new restaurant, how often do we say, hey, does anyone have any recommendations for a new restaurant? Or does anyone have any recommendations for a new lawn business? Does anyone, we're constantly asking for recommendations. We are trusting the opinion of our friends and of our family members who have potentially used that service in the past before we ever even go and use it. I'll use an example of this. My husband and I hired True Green to come and spray our lawn. Guys, it was terrible. We had a terrible experience. The weeds kept coming back. It was not solving our problem. We got charged some exuberant amount of money. My husband was frustrated. They didn't show up when they said they were going to show up. And so we were like, all right, well, who do we call? We both only know True Green because that's who our parents used. And so that's why we decided to call them again. But then we started looking around and we were like, hey, our neighbor's lawn across the street actually looks amazing. Wonder who they're using. Okay, fine. Kieran told us that they are using Fairway Greens. Perfect. We call Fairway Greens. Fairway Greens not only came and sprayed our lawn, showed up when they were supposed to and everything, but they actually took the time to help us figure out what was wrong with our Bermuda grass. Okay, y'all, we have never had Bermuda grass before. We don't know anything about Bermuda grass. We had no idea that in order for Bermuda grass to actually spread, you have to cut it really, really short. Like the guy was like, if you think you've got your mower on the lowest setting, on the lowest, like even lower than that, like you have to trim Bermuda grass super low. And then that actually allows the sunlight to get to the roots and then causes it to spread. Guys, we had no idea. But now we are singing Fairway Greens praises because not only did they, again, show up on time, give us a fair rate, all of those things, but he really went above and beyond to explain to us what we needed to do to our lawn in order to make it look beautiful. And now, guys, my husband's head is so big because everyone's like, oh, wow. This is so nice. Is this turf? Is this artificial grass? I'm like, oh my gosh, don't hype him up like that. It's because of the nice man that works for Fairway Greens that our lawn looks like this. Okay. So he created an evangelist. Now we have other friends who are buying homes in Raleigh. And they're like, hey, we need like a lawn someone to come and spray, get rid of weeds, treat the lawn. And we're like, guys, Fairway Greens, like we're telling you, these people know what they're doing. They're nice. They're super friendly. They show up on time. Tell them what kind of grass you have. They'll give you all kinds of other tips and tricks for best lawn care maintenance. Like it's been amazing. And it seems like a silly service, but to someone who's a new homeowner or to a homeowner in general, like that's the kind of service that you want. He did not have to give us that full explanation or go above and beyond. But to us, that felt like going above and beyond. Um,
Yeah. I was
So
going to mention two things on that. Number one, it doesn't take a lot to exceed expectations, right? It's
no,
not like they showed up with balloons and a party and, they didn't do anything crazy. He just took
no,
time to explain and to detail. The other thing that is interesting about that story is this, that there's something to contrast against. So you had a previous experience, which was not great. And
yeah,
so now, honestly, even if they did just a little bit better, a little bit more than True Green, they
yeah,
look like heroes. And so in our businesses, very often we become so complacent. We become so centered around us and what's easier for us as business owners, as marketers, as entrepreneurs, instead of focusing on our customers. How do we serve them well? It was Earl Nightingale who said, I don't know how many years ago this was, but long, long time ago, he said that if you want to drastically transform your business, all you have to do is spend 1 hour a day obsessing over how you can better serve your customers. That is
Mm,
it. Whoever
yeah,
serves their customers the best, whoever exceeds their expectations the most, will win.
yeah. And I think this entire conversation really is a testament to the fact that your marketing is so much deeper than the billboard. It's so much deeper than the advertisement. Your marketing is the entire experience and customer journey. Oftentimes, people believe that it is just how beautiful your ad is or the fact that you were able to attract them to get to your website. And even if they made a purchase, but that entire experience that they're having, even if they came to your website and made an order, was it easy to make the order? Was there free shipping? Did it show up on time? Was it neatly packaged? Like that entire journey is marketing too. And so we have to pay attention to that entire experience because the marketing doesn't end just when you've acquired or just when they've swiped their card, right? It's so much more and so much deeper than that.
Yeah, two things real quick on that. Number one, Jeff Bezos, so the founder of Amazon, has this quote that he said, and I think it's one of his very first shareholder letters, which was that I love the fact that our customers are divinely discontent. In other words, he actually embraced the fact that his customers were very discontent and their needs were always changing, their wants were always changing. And so he was obsessing over serving their customers exceptionally well. And that was written way back in the early days when no one thought Amazon would make it. No one thought Amazon would survive. They thought he was crazy. The other thing I would mention in that is just super quick that wherever your marketing budget is, whether it's $100 a month, $10,000 a month, $1,000,000 a month, it doesn't matter. Look at your budget and ask yourself, what percent of my budget is spent on attracting new customers? And what percent is spent on keeping and converting my customers into evangelists? And your goal is simple: move more and more of your money over to the keeping and converting side.
Yeah.
Right? At Ugly Mug, we spend approximately 60 to 65% of our marketing budget every single year on doing things to keep and convert our customers, from birthday gifts, gift baskets, anniversary gifts. I mean, there's just all these other things that we do to create experiences to exceed expectations.
Yeah, I love that. And that is true. I can attest to that. Wayne's not just making that up for the sake of this conversation, y'all. We really do, I feel like, go above and beyond to try to really get to know our customers. It's one thing to know them on a work level, but I really feel like we work to get to know them on a personal level. We know their kids' names, we know what they're struggling with, we know where they go to church, we know them deeply and we care about them. We genuinely care about them. We're not doing that just to self-serve. We're doing that because we want to have long-standing relationships with our clients. We want them to know that we deeply care about the problems that they're facing every single day within their business, the things that keep them up at night. We've oftentimes said that we want to help them get better sleep at night. We want to be the people that they come to when they have a problem, and because we want to provide a solution to that problem. We want to be the people that they call, and that they know that we're going to care and we're going to help them. And that if the first thing that we try doesn't work, that we're going to try something else, that we're going to have the flexibility to pivot, that we're not going to give up on them or give up on the strategy that we've put in place. I think that's really important to the entire foundation of Ugly Mug marketing. And that's the reason why I think we do have so many evangelists and people that are willing to recommend us, because they're not just getting a marketing, you're not just hiring us for your social media services, right? Like oftentimes we become their friend. We become the people that they lean on, that they bounce ideas off of. I think about Bridget and Robin at Little Cakes. And when I was working with Hannah Broom on that account, Bridget and Robin would come to us, and I know they still go to Hannah Broom, but they would come to us and ask us our opinion on other things for the company outside of the projects that we were working with them on. And I just think that building those relationships and becoming that level of invested and involved with your clients and within their business is just crucial to the success of your company, at any company. But those are just ways that we get involved here at Ugly Mug. Wayne, before we wrap up here, I want to talk a little bit about implementing strategy or ideas for campaigns. I think it's really helpful to have the context of, hey, at Ugly Mug, we spend 65% of our budget on keeping the clients that we already have, and working to build and deepen those relationships and marketing to those people in particular. But maybe how does that look in a restaurant setting? Let's run with that as an example. This is the holiday season. This is a time when many restaurants are promoting their like catering kind of services. And so they might say, hey, we can make your whole Thanksgiving meal. This is your first year hosting Thanksgiving. You have no idea. You're stressed. You just want someone to take care of the sides or take care of the entire meal. How would you go about marketing that service for a restaurant?
So I would start with identifying who are your existing customers that already probably are your evangelist. So one of the very first things you could do, you could go on social media and search for a certain hashtag. So if your restaurant has a hashtag that you use, maybe it's just the name of your restaurant, you could go search for that and find the people who have actually posted or shared pictures of their food or pictures of, their family gathering at your restaurant. And I would start with those people and figuring out, how do I leverage these evangelists? And maybe that is, there's someone who loves your restaurant so much, and maybe they have a good following, decent following on social media. So maybe you volunteer to give them a Thanksgiving meal in exchange for making a few posts over the next few weeks promoting, like, I see all these people running around crazy, pulling their hair out. Holidays are coming, and I'm sitting here chilled, laid back, because I'm not worrying about the meal, right? The meal is going to be provided for. So I would start with that. Once I look through our existing customers and try to figure out who there could we market to, who there could we leverage, I would then answer the question, who is the person that is most likely to purchase this? So I'm going to make some assumptions here, but I'm going to say it's a busy family. They probably have kids. They probably have kids in a lot of activities, right? So they're maybe baseball, softball, volleyball, whatever the activities are. And so I would identify then, okay, what are typical age ranges of the kids that are, in these families? I would then also look at maybe geographically, where do these people typically live? And then what are the emotional things that I could communicate to them? So it's very easy to say, look, don't worry about Thanksgiving dinner. We've got that prepared for you. Instead, what if we could communicate in such a way that it actually speaks to their emotion, to their frustrations, to their anxieties, all of those things, right?
Yeah.
Like, tired of running around with your head cut off. The holidays have you stressed because you already have a million things on your plate. The kids' activities are running rampant, holiday parties, all of these things. So when we can speak to people on an emotional level, number one, it cuts through the noise, because everyone else, they're communicating to the fact and logic. In other words, Thanksgiving meal, turkey, 2 sides, feed 6 to 8 people, $120, right? And so you blend in, right? And there's no appeal to that. Like, why would I want to spend $120 on a Thanksgiving meal? But if you tie into the emotion, like, holidays are busy, you're already running kids everywhere. Invest in some peace of mind. So it's not about the meal, it's about peace of mind. So it's those little things like that that I would begin exploring and examining around.
Yeah, I love that. Those are two amazing ideas. We have clients that we've helped in the past using those ideas, that are in the restaurant space and that are solving those problems. And yes, speaking to the emotions around that is key. And I think that's applicable to anything. Like, we're not in the business of, solving X problem or selling X product or X service. Like, think about the emotions that are involved around making that decision. Like, deeply knowing your customers and the challenges and the pain points that they have will help you be able to market your product or service better, because you can actually speak to those things rather than, to Wayne's point, just stating the facts or the obvious of whatever it is that you're selling.
Yeah, I think that's a common mistake that we make in advertising marketing. And the other mistake that ties into that is, again, it goes back to what you said in the very beginning, Hannah, which is we think that tactics are being strategic in our marketing. In other words, if our billboard matches our radio campaign, that matches our Facebook, that's strategic. And in reality, that's not strategic. That's three different tactics or three different, forms of media where we place the exact same thing. Strategic says, I truly understand the person that I'm here to serve or the person that I'm here to help. I understand what is going on in their lives. And here's how my product, my service can help, solve the problems, alleviate the pain, or help them achieve whatever it is they're after.
Yeah. Well, y'all, we've gone 6 minutes over our time. So I want to be respectful of Wayne's time, want to be respectful of your time. If you're tuning in and joining us live, thank you so much for being here. Whether you tuned in for the whole thing or you're just catching the last couple of minutes here, there's been so much goodness in this conversation, from defining marketing to talking about the natural progression to talking about ways that you can create evangelists for your company, taking them from stranger to friend to customer and ultimately to evangelist. So they'll rant and rave about your product or service to all of their friends and family. Guys, if you do not have a copy of Full Circle Marketing, I'm not brown nosing, okay? I'm just saying you need to add it to your cart on Amazon. Go and purchase a copy. Wait, how many pages? It's a very quick
120
read.
pages.
120 pages. I'm here to tell you it's an excellent book. Again, not brown nosing, truly believe that. Have gifted it to many of our clients and friends of Ugly Mug, and they will all attest and say the same. And if you don't believe us, you can read the reviews on Amazon too, because they're all excellent reviews as well. Wayne, thanks for making time for us. I know you're a busy man, so thank you for making time to join me here on Coffee Chats. Any final parting words of wisdom that you'd like to share with everyone?
No, I don't. I mean, I would just say thank you, Hannah. You're excellent at doing this. You're excellent at interviews, and I'm excited for your. For those who don't know, Hannah's slight role shift a little bit and leading more of the teaching related stuff and communication stuff. So I'm excited for you in that role. And the last word I would say is that in any area of life, whether marketing, business, personal, relationships, fitness, it doesn't matter, that consistency creates miracles. And so it's our responsibility to learn to be consistent in those little disciplines day in and day out, whether it's creating your marketing strategy, whether that is, learning to budget for your business or for yourself personally, fitness, any of those things. Consistency creates miracles.
Love that. Thanks so much again, Wayne. And thank you all for joining us today. We'll catch you next week for our next edition of Coffee Chats. See y'all.